Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day today. It's feels like fall. The humidity is gone and there's a beautiful breeze out here, and it's putting me in the mood for just things that come with the fall. We're going to do some baking today, and because this weather makes me feel like baking fall things, and we're going to make an apple cake. This apple cake is, I'm going to adapt it and try making it in with gluten-free flour. So we'll see how that goes. But before we go in the house, I wanted to just show you my Japanese rose. I don't know if you can see this, but this year, this fall, it has grown in abundance when everything else seems to have been kind of crazy with growing because of the dryness and that. This Japanese rose has done amazing. If you can see, I can hardly get in my back gate because of that, but it's beautiful. This belonged actually to my mom. I'm not sure if it was my grandma's and passed to her. I'm not sure, but it is protected here and it's just huge. Can you see any of these? I'll show you this up close. They're beautiful. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you before we head inside to do some baking with apples and cinnamon spice and everything nice. So let's go and get baking. Okay, here we are inside and we're gonna get baking. I've got the back patio door open and I can feel the breeze coming in and I can hear my water pump going, so I'm fully inspired today to get going. I love the little bit of cooler weather. So here we go. We're gonna make apple cake, but I'm going to replace gluten-free flour for the regular flour to make this a gluten-free cake, and we'll see how that turns out. So just so you know, already I have greased my bundt tin really well. I'll turn that so you can see that. I always use a pastry brush and get in all the crevices of my bundt tin, so that's all ready. I have already cut up 2 Granny Smith apples, and so they don't go brown, I just sprinkle it with a little bit of lemon juice and let that sit so they won't go completely brown. So that's my preparation that I've made for that. Okay, so here we go. I've preheated my oven to 350, and I'm using my KitchenAid. I'm gonna move this down so you can see that. I've got my KitchenAid and I've got all my counter all ready to go. So what I'm going to do is, in this bowl, I'm going to put 1 cup of softened butter or margarine, whatever you want, what you like, whatever you have on hand. If you want it richer, use your butter. And then in with that butter, I'm going to add 2 cups of white sugar. And I'm gonna blend that. It's pretty noisy outside. The wind is blowing all my decor over, my tinware, but that's okay. Okay, so now once that butter is all well blended, I'm going to add 4 eggs, add them one at a time. I always try to, as that's beating, because I just try to make my counter as clean as I can, or organized somehow in my frenzy. All right, so I'm beating that really good. I'm gonna stop it and I'm gonna scrape the sides. And just one more time. All right, so this calls for 2 cups of flour. I've kept my gluten-free flour separate from the other flour so that I don't mix them up. And this calls for 2.5 cups of flour. What I like to do, this calls for 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And what I like to do is put that baking soda on top of 1 cup measurement of flour. And I will just stir that around with the tip of my spoon so I don't have to dirty more dishes. And I'm going to add that . That's 1 cup. I'm going to add that. As that's mixing to my 2nd cup, it calls for 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So I'm going to add that to the top of that 2nd cup of flour, plus about a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to pour that in there, sprinkle that in, and also remember it called for 2.5 cups of flour. So I've got another half cup of half cup more of flour. Sprinkle that in, and let's mix that. It calls for a half a teaspoon of vanilla, and I just use the artificial. If you've got the pure stuff, use that. I I'm just going to squirt that in there. Now I'm just going to scrape the sides here. Okay. I'd like to know if you find baking pleasurable. I do. I find it relaxing. I don't get in a muddle about it. I and you know what? I just try things. I don't know how this gluten-free cake is gonna work out, but it's worth a try. Okay, so that's all mixed. Now what I'm going to do is these apples that I've cut up, sliced thin, and they're Granny Smith. I'm just going to pour that into the bowl. One fell out. One doesn't want to be in the... Did you see that? It's alive. All right. Okay, are you like me? Tastes pretty good. No husband around to do that. So there you go. I've mixed that all together. I am going to pour that into my bundt tin. Okay. I'm going to just spread that around. Give it a little bit of a tap to get any of the air bubbles out. And I'm going to put that in a 350 oven for about an hour. I'll keep my eye on it. It might need a little bit more, and how I tell again is I will put a skewer, a wooden skewer in. If it comes out clean, it is done. So I will be back. Okay, I'm making a simple glaze to put on the apple cake. In this glaze in a saucepan, I have added a 1/4 cup butter, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of milk, and a cup of powdered sugar or icing sugar, and a bit of vanilla. I'm going to stir this over a medium heat, and I'm going to bring it to a boil so it bubbles, and then I'm going to stir it constantly because I don't want it to stick to the bottom, and this is going to be poured over my warm apple cake. Okay, so here's my apple cake that I brought out of the oven. I let it cool in that bundt tin for about 10 minutes and then turned it over on a wire rack and let it cool a bit, and then I've got it on my serving plate. You saw me making this glaze and it has cooled a little bit, and now with this glaze I'm just going to drizzle it all over my apple cake. You can omit this if you want, but it does make it kind of tasty. It's like a brown sugar glaze. Now this cake, if you didn't want to go through the bother of making this from scratch, you could use instead a prepared spice cake mix. Mix that the same. Add your 2 apples, Granny Smith apples, and just stir that in and bake it, and that would be delicious. You could do that. So don't think you have to go and do all this. Now this was made with gluten-free flour, and that's why I made it that way. So once that is cooled, I'm gonna let my husband be the first one to try it. I haven't told him that it is gluten-free, so we'll see what his opinion is. He will be the taste tester. Okay, so stay tuned for that.
Diet and then being force-fed sugar.
You poor thing.
Well, I'm telling you.
Tell me how it tastes.
No, I don't do that.
A success?
Yes, definitely.
Good. Enjoy.
Thank you.